Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Dead or Alive League update, this time for round 15 with the Premier League and Division 3, and we'll begin with the Premier League. First matchup in this one was Spain, 4-7 versus Switzerland, 5-5. The Spanish all over this one. They would open up with a 5-1 win before Switzerland answered back with 2, dropping just 2 rounds in Game 3 to take a 2-1 lead before the Spanish ran off 3 straight victories, 5-3, 5-1, 5-1. Switzerland would answer back in Game 7 5-1 before the Spanish shut the door in Game 8 by 5-1. They improve to 5-7. The Spaniards do. Switzerland drops to 5-6. Second matchup was the Netherlands versus Belgium. 5-6 Netherlands versus 10-1 Belgium, and this one was a huge shock. The Belgians just taking 1 out of 6 fights. Netherlands opening up with 3 straight 5-1 victories before the Belgians answered back 5-1 in Game 4, and the Netherlands hard-fought Game 5, taking a victory 5-3 before a pivotal Game 6 in 9 rounds, taking that one 5-4. Brad Wong beating Raidu in that one. That the Dutch improved to 6-6. Belgium drops to 10-2 on that one. Third matchup: Australia versus Singapore. 7-4 Aussies, 3-8 Singapore. And Australia one-way traffic in this one. Singapore would open the bout with a sweep, but the Aussies would answer back with 5 straight, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, and then shutting the door in Game 6 with a sweep. The Aussies improved to 8-4. Singapore drops to 3-9. Fight number 4 was Mexico versus the United Kingdom. The 1-9 Mexicans versus the 3-9 British. And this one went the way of the underdogs, Mexico. The United Kingdom opened with a 5-1 victory before Mexico answered back 5-1, 5-1 to take a 2 fights to 1 lead. The United Kingdom would sweep Game 4 to level the series before Mexico ran away with it 5-1, 5-2, 5-2. The Mexicans, finding just their second win on the season, will improve to 2-9. The United Kingdom drops to 3-10. The fifth bout between Japan and South Korea. Japan at 5-5 coming into this matchup. South Korea at 6-6. And this one would go the Japanese way. They would open up with 3 straight victories, 5-0, 5-3, 5-4, before South Korea answered back 5-1 in Game 4. Japan would sweep Game 5, and South Korea would take Game 6 5-2, before Japan would defeat South Korea 5-3 in Game number 7 for the victory. The pivotal one here, Lei Fang beating Brad Wong by 5-4 there in Game 3. Japan improves to 6-5. South Korea will drop to 6-7. And this is how your Pacific Division standings will match up after round 13 in the Premier League. The Australians are back on top, 8-4, with 8 points, a +7 fight difference. They are 1 game ahead of Hong Kong at 7-5. Japan a half game behind them at 6-5. South Korea at 6-7, down in 4th place, but still a playoff spot, ahead of Singapore at 3-9. Matchup number 6. In the round 15, Austria versus Portugal. The Austrians at 7-3, Portugal at 9-3. And this one would go the Portuguese way, a hotly contested bout. They would trade 5-2 victories in round 1 and round 2 before Portugal answered back in round 3 with a 5-3 victory. Austria would take Game 4 5-2 before Portugal will answer back 5-1 in Game 5. Game 6 would go to Austria 5-1, and as well as Game 7 5-1 to the Austrians to put them within a game of taking the victory, but Portugal would answer back 5-2 and 5-4 in the final fight to take the series win 5-4. Mila beating Brad Wong there in 9 rounds. Austria will drop to 7-4. Portugal will improve to 10-3. And here's the Mediterranean Division standings after round 15. Portugal is at the top at 10-3. Austria behind at 7-4. The Swiss are at 6-6, right in the middle. Spain is a game behind them at 5-7, and France is 3 games out of the playoff places at 2-10. That brings us to the 7th contest here in the Premier League for round 15. Denmark versus Norway. Denmark at 4-6 would come in against Norway 5-7. Denmark would take this one in 7 fights, opening up with a 5-3, 5-0, and 5-1 win to go 3-0 up in the series before Norway answered back with 2, 5-2, 5-2. Denmark would take 5-1 victory in Game 6 to go 4 games to 2 up before closing it out in Game 7 5-3. Denmark will improve to 5-6. Norway drops to 5-8. And that leads us straight into your European division standings, Belgium at the top at 10-2 off their loss, still a good 4 games ahead of the Netherlands in second place at 6-6. Norway at 5-8 is in third place with a -5 fight difference, but Denmark, with their 2 games in hand in fourth place, could certainly look to climb the places above the Norwegians at 5-6. Finland is at the bottom at 4-8. That brings us to our final matchup for the Premier League, the United States versus Canada. The last undefeated team, 11-0 in the United States, going up against the 8-3 Canadians. And this one would fall the United States' way. Canada would open the bout with a 5-1, 5-3 victory in games 1 and 2, but the United States would run away with it after that 5-2, 5-3, 5-2, 5-1, and 5-2 for a 5 fights to 2 victory. The United States keeps their unbeaten streak alive and goes to 12-0, while Canada goes to 8-4. And taking a look at those Atlantic Division standings, the United States is at top at 12 is on top at 12-0. They are 4 games ahead of the Canadians at 8-4, who have a solid grip on second place by 3 games above the Irish at 5-7. The United Kingdom 2.5 games behind them at 3-10, and are level with Mexico, who are at 2-9 with 2 games in hand. That brings us to the overall league standings after round 15. The United States is at the top at 12-0. Belgium maintains their second place spot at 10-2. Portugal at 10-3 is in third. Canada is the highest non-division leading team at 8-4 in fourth overall in the league. Australia behind them in fifth at 8-4. They are the lowest ranked division leader. Austria is at 7-4 in sixth. Hong Kong at 7-5 in seventh place. Japan at 6-5 is in eighth. The Netherlands at 6-6 are in ninth, with the Swiss, who are also 6-6, in 10th. South Korea in 6-7 are in 11th place, while Denmark at 5-6 are in 12th. Ireland are in 13th at 5-7. Spain are in 14th at 5-7 as well. Norway are in 15th at 5-8. Finland are the highest ranked team currently not in a playoff position at 16th at 4-8. Singapore at 3-9 are in 17th. The United Kingdom are the lowest ranked playoff team in 18th at just 3-10. Mexico behind them at 2-9 have risen above the relegation spot, where France has fallen to at 2-10. Over to Division 3. Division 3 started with a Vietnam versus Malaysia matchup. The 4-7 Vietnamese continuing their 7-game slide, going up against Malaysia, who have started to find form and are now 3-8 despite an 0-6 start. And this one would go the Malaysians' way. Vietnam would open the bout with a 5-2 victory, but Malaysia would answer back with a 5-2 victory of their own before Vietnam took the lead 2-1 with a 5-1 victory. Malaysia answering back as well with a 5-1 victory. They would trade more 5-2 victories here in games 5 and 6 to level the score at 3-3 before Malaysia would close it out 5-1 to 5-2. Vietnam continue their losing streak, which is now up to 8, as they will fall to 4-8. Malaysia improves to 4-8. Chile versus Peru was the second matchup in Division 3. Chile coming in at 5-7, Peru at 5-5, and it was the Peruvians who took this matchup. Peru would start with a 5-1 victory before Chile answered back with 2, 5-1, 5-3. Peru would sweep Game 4 to level the series at 2-all. They would trade 5-2 victories in Games 5 and Game 6 before Chile took a 5-4 victory in Game 7, but it wasn't to be as Peru took Game 8 5-3 and answered with a sweep in Game 9 to close out the series. Chile falls to 5-8. Peru will improve to 6-5. Then your Eastern Division standings, the Philippines are at the top at 11-1, with Peru 4.5 games back at 6-5. The Chileans at 5-8 are behind them in third place. Malaysia at 4-8 have risen to a playoff spot, while Vietnam, with their -12 fight difference, fall to 5th position. The third bout, South Africa versus Egypt, the 5-6 South Africans versus the 8-4 Egyptians, and it would be the underdogs to take this one. South Africa opening up with a 5-1 victory before Egypt answered back with 3, 5-3, 5-4, 5-3 to take a 3-1 series lead, but the South Africans would fight to a Game 5 victory in 9 rounds before closing out the series 5-1, 5-2, 5-2. South Africa improves to 6-6. Egypt will fall to 8-5. That pivotal Game 5, Rig beating Diego, proved to be the difference. And the final bout in Division 3, Poland versus Sweden. 5 and 6 Poles coming up against the 5 and 6 Swedes for a chance to get back to 500 for both these teams. Sweden would open up with a 5-4 victory before Poland would answer back 5-3. Sweden would get a 5-3 victory of their own in Game 3 before Poland answered with a 9-round victory in Game 4. But the Swedes would run away with it from here, 5-3, 5-2, 5-3, and they would take the bout 5-2 overall. Poland drops to 5 and 7. Sweden will improve to 6 and 6. That leaves you with your Western Division standings. Egypt is at the top at 8 and 5, but the gap has closed slightly, with Sweden at 6 and 6 and South Africa at 6 and 6 as well, and second and third respectively. Israel at 5 and 6 have dropped to fourth place in the division, while the Poles are now on the outside of the playoffs looking in at 5 and 7. This leads to your overall league standings for Division 3. The Philippines are at the top at 11 and 1, 3.5 games ahead of the rest of the league, with Egypt maintaining second place at 8 and 5. Peru is third with 6 and 5. Sweden fourth at 6 and 6 after their win. South Africa down to fifth at 6 and 6 after their loss. Israel to sixth at 5 and 6. Poland, the highest ranked side, not in the playoffs at 5 and 7. They are in seventh place, while Chile is in eighth at 5 and 8. Malaysia have risen off the bottom of the table into a playoff spot in ninth at 4 and 8, while Vietnam is bottom of the league at 4 and 8. And that is it for the Dead or Alive leagues. Well, as always, it's just time to thank our wonderful patrons. Maruja Rosario, thank you for your continued support. And we will see you next time with a round 16 update. Take care.